Hi, and welcome, Yupin.
Thank you, Debbie. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you so much for coming in today. Yupin, tell me a little bit about Edify. It's an Australian startup, isn't it?
It is, and actually better than just any old Australian startup. We're a Gold Coast startup,
Yeah.
the best place in the earth. So what Edify is, Edify app, it's a vehicle or a tool that can actually help companies, organizations, individuals actually scale their training for their products or services. And the reason of trying to actually explain in a really simple manner like that is that, we all have information we need to share. And by sharing that information, it allows other people to better understand your products and services, and they can go on to actually share that information some more. It's really like a train-the-trainer style. And I saw that there was a huge gap in having that as a tool. Most things focus on compliance.
Yeah.
You've done it, you've signed off, you've proven to somebody. But I don't know about you, but I don't really like compliance. I just cheat, steal, do whatever I have to do so I don't have to do it. Whereas if there is actually something really useful that's actually going to improve my knowledge on something that I have to do, then I'm going to actually completely engage and actually use it. And that's what Edify is a tool to actually engage people to actually better understand what it is that you actually want them to learn.
And how do you engage people like what?
So we started off with this really big idea of bringing equality to medical education globally. Challenges to medical information is that one, it's either inaccessible because it's expensive, or people actually have to physically go somewhere to learn something like a conference. Two, it's often in English, so you have to have a degree of competency to actually understand, correctly comprehend. And three, you have to physically be able to actually kind of go there. So we kind of built this with kind of break down all those barriers. So equality has always been a real crux of, why we actually built Edify. So we started with this huge idea of which, when you're a startup, is not a really good way to start, because it's like really kind of overwhelming of trying to actually solve all of the world's problem in one hit. So we really had to kind of narrow our focus right down. So we narrowed it from medicine to surgery to orthopedics to arthroplasty to, one kind of example in one area. Yeah. Of which we actually then built our app platform, had the content, had all the functionalities, all of the features, to actually now use that as a tool to demonstrate the power of the platform.
Yeah.
And so interestingly, as a result of this inclusion and equality in mind, we've actually expanded the use for it beyond our initial scope. So now we're looking at pharmacy.
So it's expandable.
It's completely expandable, and actually across all products and services, because we were at the Digital Health Festival the other day, and there were so many companies who are selling their products and services, and I went around and had a chat to them all and asked them what their strategy was around training for staff or sellers, resellers, to actually sell their product, and no one had a strategy. Wow. Everyone's so focused on scaling their product. No one actually focuses on scaling the training to support the sales of the product.
Yeah.
And by actually bringing that to people's attention, you actually have to think about that, make that accessible, make it in a language, then your product will sell, because you have engaged and well-trained individuals who can do that for you.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so you had this idea, how did you start?
So COVID was a real, like many people, a pause button in life for a lot of us. And with COVID, it actually just allowed me to get off the corporate Ferris wheel. And so I'd had this idea and this need, kind of because of my own experience in this and the gap that I found. COVID actually allowed me to just stop and think about, is this actually possible? Would there be value? And so I actually rang an ex-colleague who had actually just received a redundancy with work, and she was Monday morning having her first cup of coffee after her redundancy. At 9 a.m. I ring her and I'm like, hey Bianca, what are you actually doing at the moment? I've got this idea, what do you think? And she's like, yes, just enjoying my first cup of coffee. Anyway, that's how it started. So we kind of brainstormed what we knew to be were kind of training issues. We roped in Adrian, who's our technical, founder, because neither Bianca and I knew anything about technology and app.
Yeah.
We knew the problem. We didn't know.
Yeah.
We knew what we wanted to do, but we know how we went about doing that. So we then formed a company, the three of us, as three co-founders of Edify Medical, trying to bring equality to training globally.
Amazing. And what are some of the challenges that you have faced so far?
I think limited resources, and that's financial resources and time, because Edify is a side hustle for us at the moment, trying to build this company whilst we're all needing to actually still put food on the table, pay the bill for our family. So that's been really difficult of prioritizing time. We were really lucky, I think, in our timing, in that we were able to join an accelerator really early, which actually meant that we didn't spend crazy amount of money in all of the excitement of building tech, which I think a lot of people fall into that trap with. They're just all building. So the accelerator over that 12th week actually put a really big handbrake on any kind of development, and we did a lot of testing of our ideas. We looked at all of the problems that people had. And so we were, I think, able to then overcome some of those, not fall into some of the financial pits that people fell into that would have sucked up time, money, energy.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest challenge actually that I found really early on was trying to articulate the company. I knew what the problem was, but I couldn't really say it clearly out loud. And when you actually start talking about language being a problem, English being a problem, a lot of people in the early stages didn't really connect with that, because they're like, well, of course people speak English. Like, what? They should speak English. Doctors should speak English, or nurses should speak English. And it's like, well, the fact is, people can certainly speak, but what does comprehension actually look like? Do people truly understand? So the burden is always on the learner for that.
And also they get to speak to their patients.
Yes.
In another country or in another language, and they want to make sure that the information is correct.
That's right. So always, when we look at the way we go about doing things now, is that we communicate in English, and the burden of translating from English to the local language is on the learner, and then the burden of correctly interpreting that information into that local dialect is also on the learner.
Mm-hmm.
So actually you lose control completely. So if you think you're a manufacturer over here, all of a sudden you've actually lost full control of how your product is actually being communicated safely and effectively. It's a really big gap, and it's a genuine problem that people have struggled with, but no one's actually thought of just going, well, if we actually pull that back and we centralize and we control that part, and then we send the information out correctly in the first place, doesn't that make more sense?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to actually get people
And what
to
is
do.
the main technology that you're using? Is it AI?
So we do a combination. So we're using AI to do the translation. We create a baseline. It's appalling. Because obviously natural language is not a direct translation of word for word. That's not how it works.
Because it's context.
That's right.
Time.
And the other thing as well is Australians, we have a lot of slang. We speak really fast, and we have this real weird accent. People can't actually understand us. So actually the AI has some severe limitation. So we use human power to actually create. We've got the machine to create the baseline, human to create the perfect scenario. But what we are doing in the back end is we're actually then now teaching machines using the perfect data that we have to match the language, that we're actually teaching machine learning to hopefully one day have automation in medical translation.
Yeah.
Because we're actually collecting the data. So we're using some basic fundamental learning management system, which is proven. It's a busy market, just to how to actually demonstrate information. That's good. But then we're actually powering up with some really important new technology in the blockchain arena to actually add in some really important safety validation features that
absolutely.
is actually really critical, and I think is what's going to set Edify apart from everything else.
Well, it's a very exciting road ahead, so
thank you. I'm really excited.
Wishing you the best of luck, and I think it really is needed, and it's a company that's going to go all over the world.
Thank you. We're really excited.
Thanks.
And we've had a big week actually this week, so we've actually booked our first revenue this week, so it's a real milestone for us.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you, Deb.